Well, folks, Kamala Harris has now accepted the Democratic nomination for President of the United States, a nomination she earned by, so here's the thing. Kamala Harris's entire campaign comes down to one word: bull. It's all just bull. That's all. That's what it was last night. She has no policies. She apparently didn't exist before last night. It's amazing. Someone struck the ground and up she popped from the ground in a haze of smoke. And there she was, fully formed, but without any positions. You see, she's not been vice president of the United States. She's not responsible for a single thing that has happened for the last 3.5 years. In fact, the last 3.5 years were a figment of your imagination. None of it has happened. The actual president of the United States right now, today, is Donald Trump, and he must be ousted because he's the incumbent. We need a change. That's the thing that Kamala Harris is here to tell you. And the way to change horses right now is to leave the exact same horse. That's the way to do it. But remember, she wasn't a liberal senator. She wasn't the most liberal senator in the United States. That never happened. That didn't exist. None of it. Kamala Harris is here to bring us forward, not backward, up, not down. She just gave a speech last night that was Kodos from Treehouse of Horror from The Simpsons. You can literally substitute in quotations from a parodical alien who inhabited the body of Bill Clinton in The Simpsons in 1996. And it sounds exactly like Kamala Harris, because we are now a country beyond parody. Here is Kamala Harris last night.
My fellow Americans, as a young boy, I dreamed of being a baseball. But tonight I say we must move forward, not backward, upward, not forward, and always twirling, twirling, twirling towards freedom.
That was Kamala Harris last night, and that was the crowd reception. And according to the media, it was just unbelievable. Unbelievable. And I got, guys, they've run out of lube at Amazon.com for the media. It's all gone. They bought out the entire stock for the next 5 years because they're all Jeffrey Tubining themselves over the magic of a woman who is a terrible politician, who is pretty good at speaking off the teleprompter, but saying nothing. That is the most, she's amazing, apparently. So, David Rothkopf, who is allegedly a columnist for the Daily Beast, I just want to read you what this human actually wrote. And he should be ashamed of himself because any self-respecting human should not write words like these. But here's what he wrote about Kamala Harris. Quote, "They saved the best for last. In a week of speech-making like none of us have ever seen in our lifetimes, with one barn-burning or heart-tugging or inspiring address after another, electrifying the crowd at the Democratic National Convention, the biggest question confronting Kamala Harris before she took the stage for the final keynote of the event was, how can she top all that? How do you top the fire of AOC, the resonance of Hillary Clinton, the eloquence of Pete Buttigieg, the love-filled words of Doug Emhoff, the gut-wrenching testimony of the women who had suffered due to Donald Trump's assault on their fundamental rights and bodily autonomy, the trip to church on which Reverend Raphael Warnock and then Democratic Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries took the crowd, Oprah Winfrey's searing surprise address, the heartbreaking personal stories of gun violence. It just goes on like this for paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs. Michelle Obama described it as magic. Everyone spoke of the joy that lifted everyone's remarks even more effectively and consistently and higher than even the expertly crafted playlist that accompanied the ceremonial roll call on Tuesday night. All of it rose to a crescendo that itself was capping off the most remarkable month of spontaneous nationwide momentum building in U.S. political history. By spontaneous, they mean completely planned by the Democratic Party and its media allies, which meant that for the vice president, the pressure was on. Could she be worthy of the week of praise? Could she live up to the expectations? She did it. Even if she did not reach the highest highs of the Obama's remarks or the emotional depth plumbed by a simple cutaway from Tim Walz to his son Gus, she delivered not only the speech of her life on Thursday night, she delivered one that in substance, tone, and historical significance surpassed all those that came before her during this week, that would have had Daniel Webster sitting up and taking notes. My God, dude. Smoke a cigarette. Calm down. Woo! So that was the media's response to Kamala Harris's speech. But here is the thing. There's nothing there. It's all a lie. She's the vice president of the United States. Inflation has been at 40-year highs. We're in the midst of two major world conflagrations, one in the Middle East, one in Ukraine. Her administration has presided over both. She was the last person in the room when the United States decided under Joe Biden to pull out of Afghanistan and leave them billions of dollars in U.S. military hardware, as well as abandoning thousands of U.S. allies to be murdered by the Taliban, as well as abandoning 19 million Afghan women to be stuffed back into bags and back into basements, as well as getting 13 American troops killed at Abbey Gate. She was the last person in the room. She owns this economy. She owns this foreign policy. She owns the social breakdown over which she has presided. But we're supposed to pretend that she is just brand spanking new, just fresh out of the package. This is the thing. It's audacious. It's an audacious move. I will grant them that. It is audacious to take a woman who has been a senator from California and the vice president of the United States for the last 3 years and pretend that she has had nothing to do with anything that is happening in the country right now. She's literally being put on foreign phone calls with the president of the United States, with foreign leaders today and yesterday and the day before. But apparently she has nothing to do with the policy. Why? It's magic. It's incredible. And here's the thing. Nobody in the Democratic Party cares. They don't care because they like Joe Biden's policies. They don't care about the fact that she hasn't defined herself. They love the fact that she has not defined herself. That's the feature, not the bug. Kamala Harris has literally nothing here. Nothing. She has nothing to do with what's going on in the country. It's vibes. It's magic. And you know what? You might need some vibes and magic of your own. And that is why I am bringing you, behold, this incredible candle. Yes, that's right. A Shapiro candle. It's the thing you never knew you needed. It's the all-new Facts Don't Care About Your Feelings candle collection. It's available right now from the Candle Club. You can go to thecandleclub.com. Join now for exclusive perks, including 20% off a founding membership, a free founders box valued at $115, 20% off all candles, and exclusive access to members-only scents. These candles are free of toxic ingredients and woke ideology. Unlike the big brands out there, they're safe for the whole family. There are limited quantities of these exclusive member boxes, so get yours before they are gone. Head on over to thecandleclub.com today and behold the sweet scent of facts. Whew. Yes. Well, now I just have to wait for all of this to clear, and then I can get back to the show. So hold it. All right, now I can get back to this. Now, as I've been very frustrated by it, you can tell, again, as I've been saying all week, it's very frustrating to be gaslit. It's very frustrating to be told that we are supposed to simply close our eyes and vote for a person based on vibes. That is not what politics is. Politics is about how people exercise power over your life. That's what politics is. It is not about vibe checks. It is not about being brat. It is not about dancing with Ghost Beyonce, who didn't show up last night. It's not about any of those things. It is about what she is going to do with power. And we know exactly what she's going to do with power. And we know exactly what Trump's going to do with power. This is the part that's insane. Donald Trump, they keep saying Donald Trump. Oh, Donald Trump. He got mentioned hundreds of times at the DNC. They mentioned Israel, I believe, one time from the stage the entire time. They mentioned Ukraine a couple of times. They never mentioned Afghanistan. They mentioned inflation a few times, but they really didn't mention anything political. It was just Trump all the way up and all the way down. And if you believe what they have to say, Donald Trump is an incipient dictator, and that's the thing that matters most. Here's the thing. We know precisely how Donald Trump will govern because he did it last time. And you know what? It was pretty good. And we know precisely how Kamala Harris would govern because she's there now. I know we're supposed to pretend that's not true, but it is. She's the sitting vice president of the United States. They want it both ways. It's making me insane. You cannot have it both ways. You can't. She was shoehorned into the presidential nomination because she's the vice president. You cannot then pretend she has no association with the Biden-Harris administration, that she's a brand new creation, that they churned her out of the Uruk-hai machine. They pulled her out of the earth, and then they glossed her up, and now she's magical and brand new. You can't do that. That's not how it works. But apparently, they think that this is how it works. It's outrageous. It truly is. It's insulting to the American people. Senator Catherine Cortez Masto, who's a confidant of the VP, she told the journalist Philip Wegman over at Real Clear Politics, quote, "We need to continue to ensure we are flexible when it comes to solving the problems of this country." The question was if she was tacking to the center, Harris. So the answer is, we're not going to give you any answers on policy. None. Zero. Zip. Zilch. And guess what? For Democrats, that's just fine. They're fine with vibes all the way down. Because here's the thing. The Democrats trust their own party. There's a big difference between Republican voters and Democratic voters. Democratic voters know that they can vote for pretty much anyone, and that person will then implement an extremely left-wing agenda. They're just trying to hide it from the rest of America. And they've been doing a good job of that over at the DNC. Right? They're waving American flags, which is something you haven't seen at many Democratic events for a very long time. American flags, we've been told, are racist and xenophobic. They spoke a lot about freedom. By freedom, by the way, they meant abortion. They meant gay pride parades. They meant genderqueer for fifth graders. They meant gun control. These are the things that they meant by freedom. I'm not even making that up. Those are all things that Kamala Harris cited while talking about freedom in America in her speech. Okay, so they hijacked the term freedom. They hijacked the American flag. They talk about how they want a tax cut for middle-class Americans while simultaneously talking about revoking Donald Trump's tax cuts, which were a tax cut for 91% of Americans. By the way, the after effect of the Trump tax cut is that the top 1% paid more of the net tax in the United States than they did before. So they're just pretending that they are kind of moderate Republicans, kind of, when in reality, they are radical Democrats, and they're lying about it. Here, for example, and Democrats don't care. It doesn't matter to them. It's all just a popularity contest. Here are Democrats at the DNC. They were asked a very simple question. Name your favorite Kamala Harris policy. Now, if you ask me that about Donald Trump, I can name you half a dozen right off the top of my head. I can talk about his Supreme Court picks. I can talk about his Middle Eastern policy. I can talk about his tax cuts. I can talk about his regulatory policy. I can talk about all those things. They can't name a thing, because it's totally unimportant. It's all just vibes. It's about you're a good person if you vote for the Democrats. If you vote for twirling toward the future, then you're a good person. And if you vote for Donald Trump, it's because you're a very bad, mean, terrible, deplorable person. That is the end pitch. Here are Democrats at the DNC failing to be able to name a single Kamala Harris policy.
What's your favorite policy of Kamala's?
That's a hard one.
What's your favorite policy of Kamala's?
Her being president.
That's your favorite policy position?
Oh, yeah,
How so?
because it covers everything that she defends.
I'm really excited for her to restore reproductive rights across America.
How do you think she'll go about doing that?
I don't know.
What a fun question.
I don't know. I'm picking and choosing. I mean, I really like most of them.
So you have to look at it broadly, right? It's about what she stands for right now.
What's your favorite of Kamala's policies?
I'm trying to think. Well, actually, more of like what Waltz comes in.
All of her policies, everything from I'm non-binary, and so all of the policies for basic human rights to have our own bodies and do with them as we please,
Her willingness to move forward on affordable health care.
How do you think she'll do that as president?
I think she'll work to motivate the legislature to vote in favor of it.
As her as a person just tops out any policy.
Her as a person tops out any policy. And that is exactly what they are selling. So Democrats are selling a pack of lies. It's all about Kamala, the person. It's not about the policy. Do not pay attention to the policy. They're not the only ones selling lies. If you've been following along, you know that after my testimony to Congress, the Global Alliance of Responsible Media, better known as GARM, was recently disbanded. This lying, shadowy coalition of big tech ad agencies and major brands had been working behind the scenes to demonetize conservative media in the name of brand safety or some such nonsense. The discontinuation of GARM is a major win for the Dailywire and other conservative outlets. Our fight is far from over. So long as I'm around, there will always be other coalitions like GARM who are dedicated to silencing dissenting opinions. Why not cut them off at the source? This is where ExpressVPN comes in. This is how you can help. When you use ExpressVPN, you're giving big tech and their ad partners the slip. Your internet activity is completely anonymized. Your data is encrypted. They cannot track your online behavior. They can't use your data to fuel their censorship initiatives. I love ExpressVPN because it's such a simple, easy way to fight back. Just download that app, tap one button, and you're now protected. It's not just about privacy anymore, folks. It's about fighting back against digital authoritarianism. While we at the Daily Wire continue to fight those battles, you can join the fight from home. Stop handing over your data to companies that want to silence conservative voices. Take a stand for your own digital freedom. Visit expressvpn.com/Ben. That's expressvpn.com/Ben. Get 3 extra months for free with my exclusive link, expressvpn.com/Ben. And they're not taking any blame for anything. So Kamala Harris's top advisor, Gene Sperling, he was on Fox News with Neil Cavuto. And Cavuto asked him about, Kamala Harris and does she own any of the inflation problems of the last 4 years since she's the vice president of the United States and was the deciding vote on the so-called Inflation Reduction Act. Does she own any of it? And Gene Sperling's like, no, man, she's got vibes. She's so brat.
Is it possible that this administration should take some blame for the double-digit run-up in food prices alone? Any blame at all? Do you accept any blame? Should she accept any blame for that?
No, I think overwhelmingly what people are seeing is that the United States got through the recovery with greater jobs, greater growth. The global inflation that you talk about happened everywhere in the world.
Well, I noticed that you will take credit for 0 of her actual policies. 0. Now, the reality is that the kind of lie that they were propagating inside the Democratic National Convention hall, which Tim Walz is sort of a Midwestern moderate. Kamala Harris, she's a hard-charging, tough-on-the-border prosecutor who worked at McDonald's one time. Barack and Michelle Obama, they are just a charming couple, uninterested in power and totally interested in public service and unity. All of these lies were belied by what was going on outside the convention hall. And the uncommitteds the uncommitteds are a group of people who have decided that they hate Joe Biden and Kamala Harris because they won't just side with Hamas already. They actually formed a human chain inside the DNC last night in an attempt to prevent delegates from getting down to the floor.
Ceasefire now. Ceasefire now.
So it turns out they can't sing or understand basic politics. Vivek Ramaswamy then went outside, a former presidential candidate. He went outside the DNC, where he was effectively physically assaulted by all the protesters that Joe Biden says has a point.
Right now you're outside the DNC, but you just came from somewhere else. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, so that was outside of the protests outside the DNC. It was pretty wild.
Racists go home. Racists go home. Racists go home.
But I wanted to first of all show up because I believe in practicing what I preach. I believe in free speech. Whether or not you agree with me, whether or not you like me, you have the right to speak your mind as long as it's peaceful. I don't know what exactly happened at the end there. One of my favorite exchanges was, first of all, buying with U.S. dollars, although they accept Venmo as well, some of this communist literature from this guy. Communist, the party of the next American Revolution has been founded. Kind of interesting.
Will you actually read it?
Yeah, I plan to. I don't know about cover to cover, but I'll take a look at what he has to say.
Okay, again, this is what's happening outside the convention, and the truth is that is the spirit inside the convention. They're just hiding it. It's all a lie. It's all a lie. Platitudes, bumper stickers, and tiny American flags for all. That is the shtick. That's the shtick. And they gloss over that with some celebrity, and they gloss over that with a bunch of talk about how Donald Trump's a big meanie who's super mean and orange, and then they expect you to vote for that. The question in this election is, are you stupid? That's the question in this election. It's not about Kamala Harris. It's not about Donald Trump. It's, are you a stupid person? Because they think you're stupid. They think you're so stupid that you are just going to bow down before a candidate because of her intersectional qualifications by pretending that she has no record and no positions. Are you dumb enough to believe the Obama 2.0 lie? Now, here's the thing. You could have believed the Obama 1.0 lie because it was the first time somebody had tried it. After all, Barack Obama campaigned as a great unifier. No red states, no blue states, just the United States. And he was a historic coming together of black and white in his very own personage. And then it turned out he was a radical leftist, a Chicago machine politician who had lied about all of his supposedly moderate beliefs and then flipped them at the first sign of power. And so when you come about it the second time, and it turns out that you have a not particularly gifted politician who's failed upward every step of the way, and now has been elevated into a nomination that she did not earn any step of the way. But she has a very long record as the vice president of the United States right now. Are you stupid enough to believe that she is a blank screen upon which you can project all of your hopes and dreams? Are you stupid enough to think that? Now, listen, I get it. If you hate Donald Trump enough and you just want to vote against Donald Trump, all right, nothing I can do for you. But if you are a quote unquote undecided voter, or you're somebody who prides yourself on actually caring about policy, if you love what Biden's doing, fine. Just say it. Just say you love what Biden's doing, and that's fine. I get it. But don't pretend Kamala Harris is anything different than that, because that's exactly what she is, only more so, and she's a liar about every single one of her policy positions all the time, forever. So if you fall for that, I don't have to call you except for an idiot. You have to be dumb to fall for that. Again, that's not every Kamala Harris voter, but if you're somebody who's actually sitting there, like, maybe she is a moderate. Maybe she is a great unifier. Maybe she is an inspirational figure who has sprung up as of this very moment. Brand spanking shiny new. If you believe that crap, you're either a member of the media, a member of the Democratic Party, or you're a sucker. That's all that can be said. Okay, so the Democrats last night, they tried their usual combination. It was actually the worst night of the DNC. So the first night of the DNC was not particularly great for them because they had to deal with Joe Biden. But they dealt with it pretty well because they shoved the old man past midnight. Like, we're going to make that old bastard stay up past his bedtime, like well past his bedtime, and then he'll stagger off into the distance and we'll shove him off to California and bury him in a shallow grave somewhere. So that at least achieved its purpose. Night two, of course, was Obama night. And so that was magic because the Democrats love them some Obama. They had Michelle, they had Barack, they had pizzazz. It was awesome. Okay, then you had night 3, and that was Tim Walz giving a bit of a barn burner speech, but he wasn't the only barn burner speech that night. They had some surprises. It was really well produced. And then you had the final night of the DNC. And the final night of the DNC was a giant letdown. It was a giant letdown for a couple of reasons. One, Kamala Harris reading off a teleprompter just ain't that interesting. It ain't. I know they're trying to make her into a great orator. She is not. She can read passably well off a teleprompter. And I understand that the standards for reading off a teleprompter have now dropped dramatically. I mean, really dramatically. Because the two-party candidates before Kamala Harris are Donald Trump, who hates teleprompters and literally wants to strangle every teleprompter he meets. He'll start reading a speech, and then he'll be like, I don't like what... He'll argue with the teleprompter. It'll say in the teleprompter, like, the economy is the most important... Is it teleprompter? I don't believe you. And then he'll just go off and do whatever he wants to do and ramble for 98 minutes at the Republican National Convention. And Joe Biden, who looked as though the teleprompter was a potential murderer, and every time it put words there, he would try to botch the words. It would say, we're going to fight inflation, and be like, we're gonna eat inflation. So Kamala Harris reading off of a teleprompter is apparently some sort of magnificent skill, but overall kind of boring. 40 minutes of pretty boring pap, uninspiring, is not Barack Obama levels of uplift, and you could feel the manufacturing. The enthusiasm from the Democrats didn't feel super manufactured the first 3 nights. It felt really manufactured last night, like really, really manufactured. All of this enthusiasm is manufactured. You know what is not manufactured? The fear Americans feel about crime in the United States under the auspices of Democrats. Well, here is the thing. If you are concerned about crime, securing the safety of your family is more crucial than ever. Now, listen, I love the Second Amendment. I own multiple firearms. But the thought of using lethal force in my home, well, if I've got another option, I'd like to try it. That's why you need to check out Byrna. Introducing the Byrna Ungun, the non-lethal self-defense platform. Lightweight, simple to use. It uses an easy-to-load 5-round magazine. It's powered by an 8-gram CO2 cartridge. Byrna launchers fire a 68 caliber chemical-filled projectile using patented pull-pierce technology where the CO2 canister is only punctured on the first trigger pull, meaning your launcher is always at the ready. It's capable of incapacitating an attacker for over 30 minutes. It's accurate and effective at over 60 feet. No permits, no background checks. It is interstate travel friendly. With Byrna, you will be prepared to defend. The Byrna is a safer, more sensible alternative that could potentially save lives on both sides, protecting both user and aggressor. Visit Byrna.com/Ben for 10% off your purchase. That's BYRNA.com/Ben. Check out the latest news about Byrna. That's BYRNA.com/Ben. So they were supposed to bring out their celebrities, and they had pitched that they had a secret surprise celebrity. And everybody was like, oh my God, is it going to be Beyonce singing Freedom again? Or alternatively, if you like Beyonce and you're a Democrat, oh my God, is Beyonce going to sing Freedom? Oh. And then there was like, maybe it'll be Taylor Swift. Yeah, whoa. There's a lot of that crap going on. And meanwhile, in the back room, it turns out they had not secured Beyonce. They had not secured anyone. It turns out the special guest was Leon Panetta. I'll always remember where I was. One person put it on Twitter. Always remember where I was when Leon Panetta was the special guest at the DNC. So they had 2 other minor musical acts show up. They had the Chicks show up to sing the national anthem. I guess that we're just playing like the 1999 hits here. So they're no longer the Dixie Chicks, as you will recall. They changed their name to the Chicks because Dixie is apparently racist. So they went with the Chicks as opposed to the Dixie Chicks, or as the Democrats usually like, the Chicks with. So they just went with the Chicks instead. So here they were singing the national anthem, so patriotic. Of course, they're really only globally famous because they ripped into George W. Bush and talked about how America kind of sucked. But here again, the shift in time from the Democrats constantly. The shift from they do it all the time. John Kerry going from my fellow troops taped electrodes to generals and they shocked Viet Cong soldiers and they tortured and women in 8 years to I'm John Kerry and I'm reporting for duty. Like the amazing switch from radical anti-patriotism to pseudo-patriotism in the Democratic Party. It's always a head scratcher. The Dixie Chicks, here they were last night doing their routine, but they're the Chicks now. Sorry, not the Dixie Chicks. Dixie's racist. These are just 3 liberal white ladies.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed
a little pitchy, dog. All right, so they brought out the Chicks. That was like a bit, wow. Whoa, and so many American flags. So many American flags. See, they don't hate America anymore. This is the rule. For Democrats, when they think they're winning, America's awesome. when they think they're losing, America is a hellscape, horrible place, and you should hate it. It's a bad place, founded in racism, built on slavery, and all the rest. Remember, the current presidential candidate for the Democratic Party tried to bail rioters out of prison on the premise that America is deeply systemically racist. She's a black woman who's been elevated to the presidential nomination without a single vote ever in that process. But America, a super racist and terrible place. And then Pink came forward, and I did have to check with my producers because, again, I'm now of the older generation. I'm 40. And so I remember Pink from when I was in high school. So I was asking, like, is she still relevant? Has she done anything recently? And they're like, no. Who is she? So, again, this is all kind of millennial Gen X throwback material, kind of. So here is Pink, who I suppose is still a singer of some sort.
We're searchlights we can see in the dark. We're rockets
inspiring.
pointed up at the stars.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. You know what? You know who those people were not? Beyonce. Not Beyonce, I noticed. So that's great. So their celebrities were the Chicks and Pink, and I gotta say, like, the lack of Beyonce was noticeable. It was. I know that they want to, like, gloss right over that or say, hey, we suckered you. You were watching to find out if Beyonce was going to come out. She didn't, but you watched Kamala, didn't you? Like, if you're going to claim that you can draw Beyonce, you probably should, bring her out at some point. So I think that if you're going to make the celebrity pitch like that, don't overpromise and underdeliver. And the DNC Night 4 was in a wild overpromise, underdeliver. The theme of the night, of course, was never, ever say anything about Kamala Harris's policies. Ever, ever, ever. So we got a lot of family time. We got Mina Harris, who is her sister, and Ella Emhoff, who is her non-adopted daughter, the daughter of Doug Emhoff, and Helena Hudlin, who is her goddaughter, a gender-diverse crew, to explain just how magical Kamala Harris is. Actually, Mina's not her sister. Mina is what, her niece? I believe Mina's her niece. So Mina is her niece. Ella Emhoff, who's the weirdly tattooed, strangely pro-Hamas daughter of Doug Emhoff, who's, the stepdaughter, but I don't think she was actually adopted by Kamala Harris. She calls her Mamala, whatever. And Helena Hudlin, who is her goddaughter. They all came out to talk about what a magical person Kamala Harris was.
Hi, I'm Mina.
I'm Ella.
And I'm Helena.
She taught me that making a difference means giving your whole heart and taking action.
She's fighting for economic opportunity, LGBTQ plus equality, and reproductive freedom, because we are not going back.
She's fighting for
Twirling
social
toward
justice,
the future.
health justice, environmental justice, and she isn't alone. We're all in this fight together.
So let's keep up the fight. Let's keep up the joy.
And let's elect this extraordinary woman as our next president.
You feeling it? Rural white men from the Rust Belt. You feeling it? You feeling it? White guys in rural America, you feeling all that? You feeling the joy? You feeling the diversity? It's just great. Now, here's the thing. If you listen to the show, you're a proud American. You're not like one of these people waving a flag at the Democratic Party convention for abortion or something. You actually like the country. That's one reason you should rely on My Patriot Supply. Their mega 3-month emergency food kit comes jam-packed with 33 varieties of filling and delicious foods. Not only does that include creamy chicken-flavored rice, old-fashioned Italian spaghetti, and savory cheesy broccoli soup, you'll also get a bonus protein kit with diced beef, flavorful chicken chunks, and 3 varieties of beans, plus 9 different fruits, veggies, and snacks. All in all, this emergency food kit provides a whopping 2,500 calories per day to keep you well-fed and ready for anything. The way I see it, it's our solemn duty as Americans to protect our families without waiting on handouts. That starts with food you can depend on for up to 25 years. Go to preparewithben.com right now. Save $300 on your mega 3-month emergency food kit. It ships fast and free. Go to preparewithben.com. Save $300 on your kit. That's preparewithben.com. Listen, whether you're living in California and you have to worry about earthquakes, or Florida and you have to worry about hurricanes, it pays to prepare. Go to preparewithben.com. Save $300 on your kit today. That's preparewithben.com. Okay, then they decided they were going to bring forth some politicians. So this is just, I will never get over the fact the Democratic Party keeps trotting out Al Sharpton. I will never get over this fact. Al Sharpton is the worst race grifter of the last 50 years in the United States. He is one of the most despicable people in American public life in the last half century. He got his major career started by smearing a prosecutor in a fake case. He then participated in not one, but two initiations of riots in New York City. He's lied about every major racial issue for the last 50 years, and they're still trotting him out as a respected voice. It is pathetic that they keep trotting out Al Sharpton, the race grifter of all race grifters. So they trotted him out anyway because they had to. So here's Al Sharpton yesterday saying that Trump cooked up votes in Georgia. Here we go.
All I ever heard from Donald Trump was how he can get an advantage. I see one candidate who wants to protect the right to vote while the other has tried to cook up 11,000 votes in Georgia.
Yeah, she's protecting the right to vote, all right. Remember how many votes she got in the primaries? 0? And then in the primary races before, 0? Yeah. Also, according to Al Sharpton, Kamala Harris is committed to making government work, which is weird because it doesn't work. And she's been the vice president for the last 3 years, and she was a senator for years before that. So I feel like if she wanted to make government work, maybe she should have done something about that.
In every job she's had, she has consistently committed to making government work
This is so
for
untrue.
those of us who've been disadvantaged.
So untrue.
All Donald Trump has been consistent about is making himself richer and sowing division to get that done.
Donald Trump is the only candidate in modern American history who did not become significantly richer after leaving office. The only one. Donald Trump was richer before he became president than after being president. Barack Obama had zero monies before he became president of the United States. And now that dude is worth in excess of $100 million. Bill Clinton was poor as dirt until he became governor of Arkansas and then president of the United States. And now that dude is worth $100 million. Kamala Harris? Are you kidding me? She's used government to benefit. Really? She let 1,000 criminals out of jail in California just to avoid a ding on her political career. Because it turns out that somebody in the crime lab was misusing cocaine that was stacked in the evidence locker. So instead of actually prosecuting cases and re-going through them or anything, just released all the criminals. Kamala Harris is one of the most corrupt and venal politicians that is in American public life. But she's committed to making government work. Al Sharpton did get a little racist. And by that, I mean he mispronounced Kamala's name. We're not allowed to do this. Well, I mean, they're allowed to do it, right? I mean, and by they, I mean Democrats. Democrats are allowed. Like Bill Clinton did it. Al Sharpton did it. Not racist. Nancy Mace does it. Super duper pooper scooper racist. Here's Al Sharpton.
Kamala Harris.
Kamala. No, I've been told it's Kamala. Stop it, Kamala. What kind of white supremacist would say something like that? Just awful, Al Sharpton, just awful. Hey, then they brought out Mark Kelly, a rejected vice presidential nominee and senator from Arizona, suggesting that the world laughs at Trump, which is weird because Iran clearly wants Kamala Harris to be president of the United States. I mean, clearly, obviously. Here is Senator Mark Kelly, who increasingly looks like Gollum. I'm not sure what's happening over here.
The world laughs at Trump. Literally. But folks, it is not funny. When he was president, that meant the world was laughing at us. The threats we face are too serious. The sacrifices our service members make are too sacred. The alliances we've spent decades building are too critical. That's what's at stake now.
Yeah, I mean, if you listen to that, what you'd imagine is that Kamala Harris is like a really hawkish foreign policy beast, that she's amazing with our allies, that she has a tremendous foreign policy record. She's going to stop the world from laughing at us because we're going to be tough as nails. She's the vice president to Joe Biden. What the hell? Just the lies. So many lies. So overproduced. Gretchen Whitmer was brought forth, another rejected vice presidential candidate from Michigan. And she says that Kamala Harris has lived a life like ours. I don't know. I didn't have sex with upper level politicians or make my political way. I feel like she's not lived a life quite like mine. I feel like there are very few respects in which she has lived a normal life, Kamala Harris. Did you grow up in Montreal, gang? Were you a person who was elevated to your first political position by a person you were sleeping with who was also married at the time? Did you make your way up on the political chain by being elevated through failure over and over and over again on the basis of your race and sex? Because I feel like that's not the way most people made their way in the United States, but she's lived a life just like yours. You know, she's a normie. She's totally normal. She's the most normal person who has ever normaled. I defy you to name a normal thing about Kamala Harris. Seriously, like look at her life story and tell me, what's the normal thing about Kamala Harris? Like what is, and here I'm not talking about like kind of generic normal. Give me like statistical norm. What falls within the statistical norm for Kamala Harris other than one's failing the California bar? Here we go.
She's lived a life like ours. She knows us.
In
Donald
what
Trump
way?
doesn't know you at all. You think he understands that when your car breaks down, you can't get to work? No. His first word was probably chauffeur.
Growing up rich is bad, guys. It's
Do you
real
think
bad.
he's ever had to take items out of the cart before checking out? Hell, you think he's ever been to a grocery store?
Well, here's the thing. We have all been to grocery stores.
The chauffeur is for.
We have all been to grocery stores. And you know what we noticed? Things are really expensive there because of you, because of this administration, because of Kamala Harris. Do I give a shit that Kamala Harris has been to a grocery store? You know what I care a lot more about? That everyone I know is paying way more for groceries. That's what I care mostly about. Also, I'm really tired of this crap that if you grew up impoverished, that grants you some additional layer of virtue. Okay, and this is coming from somebody. I did not grow up rich. Okay, I know that the common sense is that if you're a Republican in the United States, then this meant that you grew up rich. That is a lie. It is not true. In fact, of the founders of this company, 2 grew up pretty much dirt poor and 1 grew up middle to lower middle class. Hey, that does not grant additional virtue. I know people who grew up rich who are wonderful. I know people who are poor who are terrible people. I know people who are rich who are terrible people. And I know people who are poor who are wonderful people. This kind of, well, Donald Trump grew up in the heart of luxury, therefore he's evil. Well, how about the Obama kids? Are they also evil? Because I don't think they've ever been to a grocery store. Like how precisely are we supposed to work this? The bifurcated nature of Democrats on wealth is really something to see. You have Tim Walz, who's ripping on the millionaires and the billionaires the other night, posing with Alex Soros, the son of George Soros, a cradle billionaire. I mean, like it's all just hypocrisy and crap. It's stupid. It really is. I'm not a more virtuous person today because I grew up in an 1,100 square foot home in Burbank, California, sharing a bedroom with 3 sisters, 6 people, 1 bathroom. Like that does not make me more virtuous. You know what I care about? What is she going to do as president? Do we ever get to that anywhere in here? And the answer, of course, is no. But what we do know, according to Gretchen Whitmer, Kamala is a badass. She's a badass. Not like Willie Brown means it. Like she's cool.
In a crisis, we need someone strong enough to come up with a plan.
Oh, good God.
To tell the truth and to bring people together. Right now, before the crisis, is when we get to choose. Why wouldn't we choose the leader who's tough, tested, and a total badass?
She's not tough. She is not tested, and she is certainly not a total badass. None of those things are true. Name me a thing that she has done that says any of these things. One thing, ever. She had to shiv her boss directly in the stomach in order to obtain her current position. She has never done anything. She didn't even do it, by the way. It was Nancy Pelosi. She's not tough. She's not ready. She's a joke. And you guys are trying to foist a joke down the throats of the American people on the basis of vibes. It's pathetic. Okay, we're going to get to Kamala Harris's actual speech, which was just uninspiring pap all the way through. Designed to hide her policy, of course. First, let me tell you about my friend, Dr. Jordan B. Peterson. He has a new 5-part series here at Dailywire Plus. It is awesome. It's called Foundations of the West. It's really important. I had the privilege of joining Jordan and other scholars as we explored 3 pivotal cities that shaped government, religion, and freedom: Jerusalem, Athens, and Rome. It's a beautifully made series. It's deep thinking. It's great conversations. The whole journey is mind-blowing. The first 2 episodes are live right now over at Dailywire Plus. New episodes premiere every Sunday. Here's the catch. It is exclusive to Dailywire Plus members. So if you're already a Dailywire Plus member, start watching right now. And if you're not a member, we're going to take care of that. Go to dailywire.com/subscribe right now and use code Jordan and get 35% off. You'll get unlimited access to Jordan's content on demand. We have tons of Jordan Peterson content. If you didn't know that, now's the time to join. Join now at dailywire.com/subscribe and use code Jordan. Also, this Sunday, we'll be releasing a brand new episode of the Sunday Special with my friend Spencer Klavan. Spencer is a scholar, writer, and podcaster. He graduated from Yale, earned his doctorate in ancient Greek literature from Oxford. In this episode, we dive into his new book, Light of the Mind, Light of the World, releasing October 1st, plus his journey with Jordan Peterson in Athens. Here's a bit of the trailer.
Obviously, to me, the route forward lies instead in a recovery of our uniqueness as opposed to these machines. What are the things that we do that they don't? Like experience, like see colors, like feel love. I mean, for a long time, we've thought of ourselves as the smartest things in the world. That may be changing. But one nice thing about the Bible is it actually never defined humanity as the smartest entities on earth. It defined us as being in the image of God. And that, to me, is a better route forward for recovering what we are and how we can kind of survive and even grow into this age of AI and all the other stuff we're discovering.
Don't miss this incredible episode of the Sunday Special with Spencer Klavan. Alrighty, finally, we get to Kamala Harris and her big self-introduction to the American people. Now, again, I just find this so pathetic. She's been in American public life for years. I understand you don't watch politics that closely. I understand that you didn't follow her pathetic and quixotic presidential run in 2019-2020. It was sad to watch, frankly. She fell apart on the tarmac and then blew up like the challenger. It was really bad. It was really bad. And then she became vice president. And there was story after story about how she was given a glorious new chance and she promptly blew it and became the most unpopular vice president in American history. But now it's time for Kamala Take 3. And Kamala Take 3 is so much better. Why? Because the media have whipped themselves into a lather. My goodness. The media were fluffing themselves for this moment for months. I mean, just getting themselves absolutely ready to go. And boy, oh boy, did they go. Oh boy. It was just, I mean, the spectacle of the media, it is the meme from South Park. That's all I can say about the media reaction to Kamala Harris. In any case, Kamala Harris enters to a giant standing ovation filled with American flags that her supporters will soon be burning in the streets. Here we go. And then Kamala leads off. She said the path that led her here was unexpected. It certainly was for Joe Biden, because the path that led her there involved her pushing his wheelchair over to a cliff and going, and off he went, oh, clunk, down on the rocks below. And there she was, the presidential nominee.
So, America, the path that led me here in recent weeks was no doubt unexpected.
Yeah, it involved a murder.
But I'm no stranger to unlikely journeys.
I noticed that one too. Stranger to unlikely journeys. Yeah, not everybody could be a 29-year-old DA who was dating the 60-year-old mayor of San Francisco. Listen, I know the left never wants you to talk about this or mention this or anything, but that's really manipulative, weird, Machiavellian, and ugly. It is. I'm sorry. You're dating a married man, 30 years your senior. I'm sure it was for love. I'm sure it was just a love relationship. It had nothing to do with him getting you state-funded boards, cush jobs that meant nothing, and then propping you up into the DA's office in San Francisco and then helping you with your DA run that actually made you a somewhat national name. I'm sure we're supposed to, she made it on her own, guys. She made it right on her own, all on her own. And the path that led me here was unexpected. It went directly from Willie Brown's bedroom all the way up to murdering the president of the United States. Oh, boy. Okay, then Kamala Harris talks about how she, again, the recasting of Kamala Harris is amazing. She says now, okay, so we went from, she was pro-open borders, like full-scale pro-open borders, to decriminalizing illegal immigrant crossings, fighting against federal laws to prevent sanctuary cities. She raised her hand at the debates when asked if she would decriminalize the border crossings illegally. Then she was made the border czar. She lied about having gone down to the border because she hadn't. She was caught in that lie. She presided over the worst flood of illegal immigration in American history, bar none. Then she claimed she wasn't the border czar, and everybody else around her said she wasn't the border czar. And then last night she said not only was she the border czar, she's good at it.
I fought against the cartels who traffic in guns and drugs and human beings.
What?
The security of our border and the safety of our communities.
What the I mean, what? What? 320,000 minors, illegal immigrant minors, are missing under your administration. What? Now, what? Okay, then Kamala Harris goes on to talk about Trump, because that's really what this campaign is about, right? The campaign's about how Trump's a bad orange man who's super bad and super orange and bad. Just consider the power Donald Trump will have and how he will misuse it. The iron law of woke projection here that we mentioned the other day from James Lindsay, it never misses, because pretty much everything she describes Trump as being willing to do are things that she herself would or has done.
Imagine Donald Trump with no guardrails. And how he would use the immense powers of the presidency of the United States. Not to improve your life, not to strengthen our national security, but to serve the only client he has ever had, himself.
These people, I can't believe, it's almost beyond description. Strengthen our national security? Please, name the ways in which Joe Biden has strengthened our national security. Anyone? Bueller? She is the vice president of the United States. Serve only themselves? Name the thing she has done that has helped the American people. Quick, do it. Name it. Name the thing Joe Biden has done that has helped the American people. Can you? You can't. I know who has been helped by Joe Biden's career in politics. His entire family. They're much richer because Joe Biden was elected senator at the age of 29. All Kamala Harris has is ripping on Trump. But here's the thing. Americans think that the country's headed in the wrong direction under Joe Biden. And it is. A majority of Gen Z supports left-wing policies like open borders and socialism. If we don't reach them and change their minds, the country we know and love will be lost forever. PragerU is the leading nonprofit when it comes to influencing young people. We here at Dailywire have been working closely with PragerU for literally years. They do amazing work. PragerU's educational, entertaining, pro-American videos meet young people where they are online and open their minds to the truth. But they need your help. Go to PragerU.com, make a tax-deductible donation. Whatever you give right now will be tripled and have 3 times the impact. Donate $10, it triples to $30. Give $100, it triples to $300. PragerU is 100% free to everyone with no fees or subscriptions. They don't rely on ads or clickbait headlines. Contrary to what the left says, PragerU is not funded by a handful of billionaires. It's funded by people just like you. In order to keep making great content, reaching millions and changing minds, PragerU needs your help. Please make a 100% tax-deductible donation at PragerU.com today. Your gift will be tripled. Again, that's PragerU.com today. Give them your help. They definitely need it, and they're doing amazing work. PragerU.com. For Kamala Harris, it's all about what Donald Trump is. Donald Trump is super duper bad. And then she says, you know, what he's going to do is Project 2025. Now, let me just say this about the media. They are so disreputable, truly disreputable. Kamala Harris has not herself distanced herself from any of her formal proposals, banning fracking, the Green New Deal, nationalized healthcare, getting rid of private healthcare insurance. She's not done any of those things on a personal level, but they've immediately dissociated her not only from her past positions, but also from her current position as vice president of the United States. Then the entire Democratic Party keeps saying over and over that Donald Trump is Project 2025, despite the fact that Trump himself has not only said that he is not in favor of Project 2025, the Heritage Foundation basically laid off the head of Project 2025. But they can't stop, won't stop. In fact, the only policy positions that appear on Kamala Harris's webpage are Project 2025. So here she was saying that Trump will do Project 2025, despite the fact that he has said overtly and many times he would not. Here's the thing. We know exactly what Donald Trump's administration would look like. On the good side, excellent Supreme Court justices, lower taxes, higher economic growth, lower rates of inflation, strong national security, solidifying alliances on the foreign front, devolution of authority back to the states with regard to things like education and social policy. On the negative side, he's going to spend too much money and he's going to tweet a lot of stuff. Those are the things we know about Donald Trump's presidency. Why? Because that's exactly what he did the first time, and it was pretty good. You know what we know about Kamala Harris? According to her, nothing. But in reality, everything. She's been the vice president of the United States for the last 3.5 years. They are trying to disappear your brain here. But here she is saying that Donald Trump is a threat. He's such a threat. He's the biggest threat. He's such a... Oh, God. Here we go.
We know what a second Trump term would look like. It's all laid out in Project 2025, written by his closest advisors. And its sum total is to pull our country back to the past. But America... we are not going back.
We're not going. They're twirling to the future, guys. They're twirling to the future. They're also apparently charting a way forward for the middle class. It does not involve middle class people having better jobs, better pay, lower inflation. It involves her saying it. If she says it, it magically manifests. She's of like the Marianne Williamson School of Politics. If you think it, it manifests. Ooh. Here we go with her middle-class plan. By plan, I mean she's going to say a sentence that means nothing.
We are charting a new way forward. Forward.
Forward. Stop saying forward. It's so annoying. You go backward, sideways,
with a strong
diagonally.
And growing middle class, because we know a strong middle class has always been critical to America's success. And building that middle class will be a defining goal of my presidency.
Guys, did you get all that? She is going to build the middle class by saying that growing the middle class is a defining goal. That's awesome. You know what my goal would be as president of the United States? World peace. A chicken in every pot. A Ferrari in every driveway. Those are my goals. And that means I will be an amazing president. Because if I say it, it comes true. Don't be a stupid person. What's her actual policy? What's her actual policy? Her actual policy is that she's going to shout a lot about abortion. So this is the real Democratic play. The real Democratic play is the most important thing in America is that women be allowed to kill babies in their womb. This is the most important thing in America. At any level of the pregnancy, by the way. All the way up to birth. All the way up to birth. And in some cases, yes, some cases past birth, because they vote against things like the Born Alive Infant Protection Act, which if a kid is accidentally born during an abortion procedure, they're like, well, maybe you could still kill it or let it die. Here is Kamala Harris talking about the thing that is nearest and dearest to every Democrat's heart, apparently, the killing of the unborn.
As a part of his agenda, he and his allies would limit access to birth control, ban medication abortion, and enact a nationwide abortion ban with or without Congress. And
What?
get this.
First of all, that's a lie. He hasn't said anything remotely like that.
He plans to create a national anti-abortion coordinator and force states to report on women's miscarriages and abortions.
In what are you talking about? Where is she getting this?
Simply put, they are out of their minds.
Simply put, they're out of their minds. I, meanwhile, hold this baby in my hand. They're out of their minds, guys. And you know what? We're out in the parking lot aborting babies. Literally. That's reason. That is rationality. And that is moderation. Amazing stuff. And then she got to Israel and the Palestinians. This was actually quite interesting. So the Democrats scrupulously for 4 days avoided saying the word Israel because they're afraid they'd get booed in the convention hall. And that did happen a little bit. She mentioned Israel, and there were boos in the convention hall from the pro-Hamas crowd. So here's what she did. And this was actually clever. I will give her speechwriters credit for this. She said many of the things that pro-Israel people want to hear. And then she turned around and said all the things that pro-Hamasniks want to hear. It's everything to everyone at the same time. Now, the way that you square that circle is you look at her actual policies. The actual policies of the Biden administration pressure the Israelis at every point necessary. At every point. Just keep the pressure on. Deprive them of weapons. Have secret backroom meetings with the mayor of Dearborn, Michigan, a full-scale pro-Hamasnik. And so there's what she said on the stage, and then there's what she did. But having it always to all people is apparently the agenda. So what she says about Israel is great. It's fine. And then she turns around, and what she says about the Palestinians is not great and not fine. But it's all in the same breath, because that's who Kamala Harris is. Everything to everyone at all times. We're not supposed to actually ask questions about what this means in practice.
And let me be clear. I will always stand up for Israel's right to defend itself, and I will always ensure Israel has the ability to defend itself, because the people of Israel must never again face the horror that a terrorist organization called Hamas caused on October 7, including unspeakable sexual violence and the massacre of young people at a music festival. At the same time,
because that was one side.
What has happened in Gaza over the past 10 months is devastating. So many innocent lives lost.
You see how uncomfortable she is right now.
Desperate, hungry people fleeing for safety over and over again. The scale of suffering is heartbreaking. President Biden and I are working to end this war such that Israel is secure, the hostages are released, the suffering in Gaza ends, and the Palestinian people can realize their right to dignity, security, freedom, and self-determination.
Why everyone's going to get everything they've always asked for. There are a few obstacles in the way of this particular policy, namely that the Palestinians tried self-determination in 2005 and they elected Hamas. If the Palestinians self-determined today, they would elect Hamas in the West Bank. We're supposed to ignore all of those niceties, of course, in favor of the sort of moral equivalence that Hamas did terrible things to Israel, and now terrible things are happening in the Gaza Strip. What she should have said is, as a result of Hamas's activities, she wasn't going to say that, of course, because she's got to have the baby, which, again, is Democratic policy at this point. So her closer was, America's extraordinary, it's amazing, it's patriotic, it's wonderful. And again, I take this with a large grain of salt from the same lady who was saying just a few years ago that America is a systemically racist place in which black people can't get ahead because of the latent white supremacy in all America's institutions. That seems a little at odds with her current messaging. But again, those are the rules. When Democrats are winning, America's awesome. When Democrats are losing, it's a white supremacist hellhole.
Let's fight for it. Let's get out there. Let's vote for it. And together, let us write the next great chapter in the most extraordinary story ever told. Thank you. God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America.
So here's the thing. It's actually kind of hard to get up the passion about Kamala Harris because she's really boring. She's really boring and not good at this. And honestly, like, she says things from a teleprompter and they're fine. She's kind of like, she's not Obama 2.0. She's Hillary Clinton 2.0. She's better than Hillary Clinton off a prompter, but she's actually worse than Hillary Clinton off the prompter. And we have not yet seen her off the prompter. In fact, yes, you knew it was, it's time. It's time. We are now on day 34 of 0 televised interviews with Kamala Harris where she is off prompter. 0 for 34 days. Here's the thing, they got another 80 days of this. Can they hold it up for that long? I don't know. And she isn't quite pulling away here. She isn't pulling away in the polls. She's ahead. We'll see what the polling looks like after the convention, whether there's any bump. I kind of doubt there'll be a bump because I think that all of the enthusiasm was already baked in. The instantaneous nature of modern American politics is that when a thing happens, it gets baked into the cake like that. Immediately. It doesn't take weeks for it to sort of seep into the public imagination. It happens overnight. So the minute Biden was out and the knives were in his back and she had taken his spot, everyone swung behind her. By the end of the week, the polling was what the polling was, and it had basically solidified in place. Nothing has really changed for the past several weeks, actually, in the national polling. In fact, if you look at the national polling over the course of the last several weeks, Kamala Harris was up approximately 2 points on August 8th. And today, August 22nd, she's up approximately 3 points. And so things haven't changed all that much. In fact, even if you go back to when she first jumped in, she had like a slight 1.5 point lead on Trump nationally. That'd be like the end of July, beginning of August. And today it's like 2.5 points. So not much is changing right now. And the polls have basically been stable for the last several weeks. So do I think that this is going to radically change the game that they had, sort of this Oscars of leftism, as Douglas Murray is putting it? I don't really think it's going to change much. At some point, she might have to answer some questions about her policy. The Wall Street Journal says the vice president's economic advisors are scrambling to assemble a policy agenda on the fly. I have a question. Why? Why? If you ask me my policy agenda, literally any day for the last 20 years, I could have given it to you because I do this for a living. I talk about politics and I think about it. And you know what? So does Kamala Harris. So it's a lie that she doesn't know what her policies are. It's a lie that she is now switching. That's the thing. She has to change all of her policy proposals. Here's the key paragraph from the Wall Street Journal. Every new policy proposal she puts forward gives political ammunition to her opponent, former President Donald Trump. The Republican nominee has been attacking Harris for not being specific enough in her plans. See, here's the thing. Here's the great asymmetry. Donald Trump, he hasn't been specific on his plans either, but we know exactly how he's going to govern because he was already president. So we know what that's going to look like. Kamala Harris has not been specific on her plans. And we also know precisely how she would govern because she's the current vice president. The difference is she's lying and says she has no connection to any of that. It's as if Donald Trump were running again and said, remember that first term? Forget about all of it. We're going to etch-a-sketch this thing. Just shake it up. It's gone. Never happened. And the media, by the way, are actually trying to do that. They're trying to pretend that Trump's first term didn't exist and Project 2025 is term 2, as opposed to, term 2 being an extension of term 1. There's some speculation of what exactly, the New York Times calling this political pragmatism, the dishonesty. See, when Democrats do it, it's political pragmatism. When Republicans do it, it's rank dishonesty. Who exactly is going to be in her administration? So the Wall Street Journal has put together an early list of names that have emerged in conversation with senior Democrats in Chicago and Washington. So there has been talk about Marty Walsh, former labor secretary, as chief of staff. Or Eric Holder. Harris's economic policy brain trust includes Mike Pyle, a former Harris aide, Brian Deese, former economic council director, and Gene Sperling, former Biden economic advisor. So yeah, that's going to be a wild change from what we have right now. Meanwhile, if you look at, for example, the foreign policy situation, there's been talk about Phil Gordon, Harris's national security advisor, as a candidate for that role if she wins the presidency. He is very, very pro-Iran, Phil Gordon. Senator Chris Murphy, who's a wild leftist, has been considered for Secretary of State. Yeeks. They're talking about Chris Coons, possibly for Secretary of State. But apparently Jake Sullivan, Blinken, and Austin will all be ousted. There's been some talk about Michelle Flournoy, who wouldn't be bad. For Sec Defense. They're talking about Pete Buttigieg as contender for U.S. ambassador to the UN. Yeah, great. This sounds like another convocation of geniuses over here. It'll be great. Alrighty, guys, coming up, we'll get to Donald Trump's response to all of this campaign in a second. If you're not a member, become a member. Use code Shapiro at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans. Click that link in the description and join us.
Republicans are Nazis. You cannot separate yourselves from the bad white people.
Growing up, I never thought much about race. It never really seemed to matter that much, at least not to me. Am I racist?
I would really appreciate it if you left.
I'm trying to learn. I'm on this journey. If I'm going to sort this out, I need to go deeper undercover.
They gon' say I'm racist. Joining us now is Matt, certified DEI expert.
Here's my certification. And what you're doing is you're stretching out of your whiteness. This is more for you in this field. Is America inherently racist?
The word inherent is challenging there.
I want to rename the George Washington Monument to the George Floyd Monument.
America is racist to its bones.
So inherently.
Yeah, this country is a piece of
white
folks,
white
trash, white supremacy, white woman, white boy.
Is there a black person around here? There's a black person right here. Does he not exist?
They gon' say I'm racist.
Hi, Robin.
Hi, what's your name?
I'm Matt.
It's had to ask who you are because you have to be careful.
Never be too careful.
They gon' say you racist.
Buy your tickets now. In theaters September 13th. Rated PG-13.